Hey everyone, it's me, HawkeyeG, and I'm here with another faction introduction video. This time, as you guessed it, it's for the Ghosts of Pahuax faction of the Lizardmen, featuring HawkeyeG as the legendary lord. So, what we're going to talk about, same as always, we're going to talk about the faction bonuses that they get. We're going to talk a little bit about the legendary lord, what his style is kind of like, and what bonuses he brings to the table, and then any unique mechanics that this particular faction of the Lizardmen has that sets them apart. So with that, as per usual, I'm just going to jump into a campaign and we can start taking a look at things from there. So, for those of you not familiar with this faction, the last and latest DLC for Total War Warhammer 2 is the Silence and the Fury. The Silence, of course, refers to this faction, the Ghost of Pahuax, led by HawkeyeG. In both the Vortex and the Mortal Empires campaign, HawkeyeG set up here in the Frozen City, in the northwest of the map, where the Dark Elves are mostly. They also have a little bit of chaos interference, obviously especially closer to them in Mortal Empires. His primary goal is to remove all supporters and forces of chaos, so that would be the Beastmen, Chaos, and Norska pretty much, but they do kind of send you after any of the forces of destruction, like the vampires basically. I haven't really had any missions to fight the greenskins thus far, but the Skaven and the vampires will definitely be targets. I'd assume greenskins as well, it just hasn't come along yet. But yeah, any forces of destruction are likely to be your target. The goals are largely fulfilled by the unique mechanic, the visions of the old ones, but I like to leave the unique mechanics as the last part to discuss, so we will have to come back to that later. So we'll start with what we usually do, which is the faction bonuses. So if we take a look at the faction bonuses, these ones are pretty simple, right? We've got upkeep reduction for basically all skink type units. And then in addition, they get an increased... So normally when you have a unit rank up, right? If you have a unit that gains a rank of veterancy, every rank of veterancy gives them one additional point in melee attack, melee defense, and leadership. It can also, for ranged units, affect things like accuracy, makes the unit more accurate. I'm not going to go into that, but I believe Zerkovich has a good video on how accuracy works, if you want to look into that more. But so the point being, this gives you an additional +1 melee attack, defense, and leadership per rank for all skink infantry, right? So where in any other Lizardmen faction, the skink cohort would get +2 at rank 2 for melee attack and defense, they're going to have +4 here, right? So the base of 19. I don't know if we can see that perhaps from the units, the unit menu here. Yeah, 20 and 24. That doesn't seem quite right, but, well, the melee defense is, the melee attack isn't, whatever. This is what the bonus is. The melee attack, defense, and leadership increase, so instead of getting 1 per rank of veterancy, they get 2. And then, in addition, for missile units specifically, like skink missile units, they gain an additional 1% speed and missile damage per rank. So, where with normal units, like I said, you don't get as much of a bonus. You definitely get a little bit better of a bonus. I mean, technically, you're doubling the melee attack and defense increase on skink units. So some high-rank skink units can actually have some value and will definitely carry themselves quite a bit further in this campaign than they would in other ones, especially if we're talking about speed and missile damage increases, and we'll kind of cover a little bit more of that as we go on. But yeah, those are the main ones. So as you can see, the basic bonuses kind of gear you more towards skink units. In a way, I would say this gives you kind of an early game advantage, right? It allows you to take units that are generally a little bit weaker and give them a little bit more strength and make them a little bit more long-lasting, as well as making them cost less. Overall, this is just a big cost efficiency thing, right? Instead of spamming Saurus like you might do in a lot of the other campaigns, in this one you can just spam skink units, even if you're talking just basic skink cudgel and cohorts. You can still use those to at least to a better degree of effectiveness, and again, like I said, cost effectiveness than you might otherwise. And it doesn't say here, but if we were back at that main menu, maybe I should have gone through the list there. We've got a couple other things. There's the Silent Sanctums, which is a unique mechanic I'll talk about later. There's the Visions of the Old Ones, again another unique mechanic I'll talk about later. And then the last big one, Suitable Climates, all. Now, this part is pretty straightforward. If you know what climates are, if you know how to look at things on the map, you understand, like, okay, suitable climate means that every zone I can inhabit comes with no penalties. But what they don't tell you there, or at least it's not specified anywhere, the suitable climates all seems to be that you don't suffer attrition from anything either, right? This is not Oxyotl. This is not a legendary lord of any kind. We are standing in an area that is absolutely going to incur frozen wasteland attrition for any other unit. It's not occurring for this lord. If we come over here into Norscan territory, should be the same story, right? Any other army traversing this area that's not Norska should be suffering attrition. This army is not. Now, I haven't really had a great opportunity to test it in places like desert. You know, do we still suffer desert attrition? Do we still suffer mountain attrition? At this point, I can't really say. I haven't done enough testing on it, but I think it's reasonable to assume that. If we have some of the worst zones and we don't suffer attrition there, perhaps it's just a special thing for the frozen wasteland territory because they expect you to fight Norska, but I imagine that the suitable climates all does extend to things like desert and mountain attrition as well. You may have to find out for yourself, or maybe you'll never find out because you just won't reach that in this campaign. But yeah, just something additional to keep in mind with the suitable climates thing. So that should pretty much cover it for the faction bonuses. Short and sweet. We'll talk about maybe some of the impact of these things a little bit later on, but really, like I said, the bonuses to units are about cost efficiency, and the rest of it is mostly unique mechanics. That means it's time to talk about the legendary lord, Oxyotl. Now, if we start with the details page like usual, there's a couple things to look at here. So, of course, he has his unique trait that gives us a few different advantages. Immune to diplomatic penalties from trespassing. This is going to be a key feature when we talk about the unique mechanic for the Visions of the Old Ones. The Masterful Ambush stance, which is just a better, only requires 10%. It only requires 10% movement range to adopt, and it has a better chance of not being detected, right? I mean, I guess it explains it there. And then we have, you get more experience for fighting any of the forces of, Chaos, the Chaos units that we talked about, right? Beastmen, Norska, and Chaos themselves. And then you also have armor-piercing missile damage increase for all Skink infantry units. That is something I kind of wanted to touch on a little bit. If you've been watching some of the streams that are out there, a lot of people end up just running Chameleon Skink Doom stacks, even on higher difficulty for Oxyotl. So while I personally didn't think that this seems like that great of a bonus, I think that combined with some of the other bonuses you get, right, the cost efficiency and the additional bonuses here, plus a couple of his unique skills make it viable. I mean, you can see I've got a more balanced army here. Chameleon Stalkers maybe work better on normal difficulty than very hard, but that's that. But yeah, this armor-piercing missile damage, it just doesn't seem that good to me personally. I know I have the banners on these, but if you're looking at a Chameleon Skink and their basic, their base missile attack and stuff like that, right? They only have 3 armor-piercing missile damage. You increase that by 50%, it only goes up to 5. So to me, that doesn't seem like that big of a bonus, right? And in fact, you can even see, while this missile strength looks like a much higher base, so I'm confused how this missile damage increase is calculated, because it looks like it's just reducing their reload time as a way to increase their missile strength. But anyway, yeah, I personally, I don't expect this to be that useful, or at least I don't expect it to last me into the late game. The armor-piercing missile damage bonus isn't that great, and there's not enough other direct bonuses to skink units for me to really say, hey, this is a great lord for skink spam, but it's working for a lot of people past turn 50, so I can't say that it's totally unviable. And something you have to keep in mind is, even though that 5 armor-piercing damage is pretty small, that is per unit, right? So 2 damage more per troop of 68 on large unit scale, that is going to add up pretty quickly. So maybe it's better than I think it is. The problem is just that when I think of armor-piercing missile infantry, the first thing I think of is not a Chameleon Skink. It's not really anything in the Lizardmen roster, except for maybe Stegodons, right? This is what I think of when I think of armor-piercing missiles. Maybe some Razordons, right? But these aren't going to count as skinks either. So I feel like it's kind of a lost bonus, but again, people have been using it quite effectively, so don't take my word for it. Try it for yourself and see how it works. That's just my 2 cents on that little piece. Okay. The other thing that we can see in the details page, you actually start with 2 of these special banners, and then you can acquire 2 more through his skills page. And each of these gives your, you can use it for any skink, blowpipe, or javelin unit. So technically you could put it on chameleon stalkers, but it's an enhancement to their missile units. So I really wouldn't recommend putting this on a you put it on a chameleon skink, right? And so each of these have varying effects. I'm not really going to go into what they do. But yeah, each of these kind of just gives your chameleon skinks a special little bonus to their missiles. You could still put it on the chameleon stalkers. You put it on standard skink skirmishers, but you can access chameleon skinks so early in the game. But yeah, just something to keep in mind. Is this worth is this worth something? Is this worth more than campaign movement range and recruitment rank increase or recruitment cost? There's definitely some better followers and banners that you can get later on that you might replace these with, but it's kind of fun, right? It's a fun little extra thing that you get with Oxyotl, so feel free to play around with it. Definitely is fun and interesting to have the different kinds of missile attacks, so there is that. If we go and look at the skills page, I'd say his stats are pretty standard. He does have the ambush chance increase here on the front of the blue line, which is good. You can use that to obviously to get better ambushes. I really ought to take lightning strike here, but I haven't super needed it. And you don't ambush on attack, so I've been playing like an Alethanar campaign, getting myself confused, right? You don't ambush on attack. You just have a good masterful ambush. So being able to increase your chance is useful. Otherwise he would have what I'd consider pretty standard, hybrid infantry abilities. You've got the swiftness of Eatzel to cause an explosion to escape. Then we've got the golden blowpipe, which this pretty much does what you would think it does, increases all of his ranged stats, and then gives him a magic missiles ability. It's great, right? Exactly what you'd expect it to be. If we look at his actual skill tree here, so the ancient knowledge gives you a pretty minimal experience bonus, gives you the research rate increase, which is pretty good, and then sanctum gems 1 per turn. Again, I know we haven't talked about this, but there's the main way that you generate this extra currency is through completing quests. So the only as far as I've found so far, there's no other way to get them. So having this 1 per turn, it's actually pretty big. You've got this skill, which is it gives resistance to stuff like fear and being terrified when you're fighting Chaos, Beastmen, Norska. Reduces their leadership as well. It's kind of nice. I don't know if that's... It's nice. It's definitely nice to have. I don't feel like it's a need to have. And the Untainted is good, though. I don't know. It's good overall. It really depends on if you're fighting them a lot, but it's going to come in handy for Oxyotl, especially with all the missions you jump around to fight. You've got this hidden nuisance, which this one's kind of cool. Basically upgrades the stealth abilities of all of your skink units. Okay, the chameleon stalker, that is these guys. That's the new unit that they added that has the couple of javelins that they throw. This is kind of a nice little ambush unit. Okay, the unspottable means that basically it's impossible for them to be spotted until they're at point blank range. Really nice. Stalk for all skink infantry units, so basically anything that's not the chameleon stalker or chameleon skink, even your basic skink cohort units, those units get stalk, which means that they can move hidden in any terrain. Okay, snipe for chameleon skinks, that means that your chameleon skinks can shoot without being revealed, right? And chameleon skinks already have stalk, right? They already have stalk, and so giving them snipe is pretty powerful. So he's definitely got some good stealth skills that he adds to all the different kinds of skink units. And then of course you have the little bit of benefit like further reduced chance of being detected in ambush stance. Really allows you to set up ambushes, although I don't find myself setting a lot of ambushes in this campaign. When you're trying to defend a settlement and you're outnumbered by the attackers, it can be good, but a lot of the time you're the attacker. You're jumping to somebody else's base halfway across the world, attacking them, and then leaving, right? But it's still good, though. This is good overall, especially if you do want to experiment with putting in some more skink units. He's got the next skill is Explorer of the Lost Worlds. Basically just unlocks recruitment for the new hero type and gives upkeep reduction and missile resistance for the new unit types and hero type. You've got this behind enemy line skill. This just gives you bonuses in enemy territory, so missile damage, melee attack increase, so like damage and accuracy increase, and then a little bit extra casualty replenishment and increase to global recruitment capacity. Casualty replenishment's actually kind of nice because basically that just offsets the penalty that you would normally receive. And obviously global recruitment is nice too. Not that you really need to use it if you can teleport, but presumably this works. Does it work for everybody? Let's find out. Global recruitment of, yeah, a cap of 5. So it appears to affect global recruitment for every army. So that's pretty good, right? That's actually very nice. The last skill here we have is the Long Revenge. Again, another really nice one. Greatly increased campaign movement range. Really nice when you're going to teleport halfway across the world. You can make a move or two before you even teleport and still have enough left to get things done on the other end. Huge ammunition increase for all skink infantry units. I don't know if you noticed that, but when I was looking at these chameleon skinks, like, look at this ammunition. This is where your doom stack can come from, right? This is where the chameleon skink spam works, is if you just have like the unlimited ammunition, the ability to like run away and become hidden while firing, you can really do some damage that way. The vigor loss reduction obviously helps with that as well. If you have these units that are basically skirmishing all the time and like retreating and shooting, this helps because you can outrun the enemy that way, and then gives perfect vigor to Oxiotl himself so that he's always at full stamina. So that pretty much covers it for the Legendary Lord stuff. I don't want to get too into it. I've already talked a little bit about the skinks and how I think that they can kind of fit into this army. So I was about to jump into this, but I want to kind of make this a separate section because I want to ask the question, are skinks viable? It's a great question, and originally I would have said no. When I was looking at working on this video in the first place, right, I already talked about this. Armor-piercing missile damage plus 50%. That sounds like a big bonus, but when only a third of their base damage, you can't see it here, like only a third of their base damage is actually going to be armor-piercing by default, great, like a 50% increase to that is actually, it seems pretty minimal, right? But coupled with the other bonuses, it can still be very effective. Again, there's been a couple of streams out there that I've watched for research, and you'll see people will just do this chameleon skink spam and basically say, like, as long as it works, I'm going to keep doing it. When it stops working, I'll switch out the army. It definitely works for a while. The turn that I'm on this campaign, which I'm definitely going to start a different one to have a little bit better of a run. But this, like, by this turn, you can still be doing full chameleon skink spam and having no difficulty taking on a majority of your fights, right? In the long run, I'd say that I don't really think that you're going to stay skink units like chameleon stalkers and chameleon skinks, right? I think this is one of those situations where you get a great early game advantage, right? You get really high cost efficiency on some of your like weaker units. I'm not really huge on skinks in the long run for the Lizardmen, but this does give them, like, it offsets things a little bit where it makes them more viable. It at least makes them a possibility even into the mid game. Again, I'm probably going to switch out of them and reduce the number of them that I have as I get into the late game. But yeah, again, people have been using them effectively. So, like, are skinks viable? Does this campaign make skinks viable? I think the answer is yes. I think it's, in the campaign starter guide, I'll try to include some combat, but it's really easy with all of the, like every one of these can get Vanguard deployment. They all have stock. These guys even have unspottable. It's incredibly easy to, like, bait the enemy forward with a couple of your, like, nice line holding units and then just pull off an insane flank with all the rest of your skink units. It's great. It's very satisfying. It's very easy to do in the early game. It does mean that you would have to play out a lot of your battles, though. So if you're big on auto resolve, the skink thing is probably not going to be your cup of tea. But it works. It definitely works. It's fun. Don't want to run on that too long, but yeah, just a little side note about the skinks that I've been kind of going back and forth on, wanted to discuss here separately. So the last thing we have to discuss is probably the biggest thing that we have to discuss on this campaign, and that is the Sanctums. Yeah, this campaign brings with it some pretty significant mechanics to it, okay? So I would call Sanctums, they're like similar to Undercities, right? I call them the Lizardmen version of Undercities. You can place them anywhere that you have vision. So literally anywhere your territory enemy territory, it does not matter where you put them. Like, anywhere that you have or once had vision, any part of the map that's revealed, you can place these, okay? It's pretty cool. You do need to build up a certain number of Sanctum gems, which, as I said, you get either through that one skill from Oxyotl, or you get from the Visions of the Old One mechanic, which we haven't really talked about. And even here you can see I'm not getting any of them from this. Sad. But so they're nice, but unlike an Undercity, they don't generate anything like income or public order or anything like that. And in addition, you are forced to have, let's see if I can find, no, we got to go to a different province here real quick. So if we look at all the possible buildings, in every Silent Sanctum you build, you are required to have this building in it, the Unearthed Sanctum. It's in here by default. As you can see, I have no demolish option for it, right? I can demolish any of these other buildings. I can't demolish the Vision building. This will give you vision over the local region. If you upgrade it, it gives you vision over all adjacent provinces. But yeah, if you're trying to like deck out your home province and get a bunch of different upgrades, then this, you know what I mean? It would be nice if you could remove this, but you can't remove it. So keep that in mind. You really only have 2 building slots. If we look at the different buildings, they're still pretty good, right? Recruitment cost and global recruitment duration reduction, casualty replenishment vigor loss reduction, upkeep reduction, and post-battle loot. Chance for a random patrol army to ambush armies in the region. Honestly, I haven't gotten this to pop for me very often, but it sounds cool. And then the capstone. Now this is a big piece. The capstone lets you teleport. So I'm jumping ahead here a little bit. With this Visions of the Old One mechanic, you can teleport Oxyotl's army once per turn. You can always teleport to your home province. You can also teleport to wherever you have one of these capstones built. You can only build one at a time. If you ever build a new one, as it says, it destroys the old one. But so this allows you to set up a second base in whatever random place in the world that you want to set one up. It's pretty cool. So that's what that does. And then here you just have a variety of like army enhancing effects, right? You can go missile strength and ammunition increase. You can go weapon strength, charge bonus, and melee attack increase. Or you can do like missile resistance armor and melee defense. So you can do like missile attack bonuses, melee attack bonuses, general defense increases, right? And if you upgrade them, it unlocks an ability as well. The big thing I want to point out about these is when it says local armies here, recruitment cost minus 35% local armies, that means only in this settlement territory, right? Dargoth doesn't have one of these. If I go over here, I'm not going to have, like, my recruit cost is not going to see any reduction, right? We have this recruit cost minus 35% in Nagrar. Like this, I mean, I could build an army to prove it, but I've already tested this. I know that it doesn't, like, you can't just put 2 of these buildings in the same province and have it reduce your recruitment cost to nothing. This only works in literally, when it says local armies, it means only in that settlement. So in a lot of ways, these aren't really as powerful as I thought they would be. There's plenty of them still. Well, like this one, right? Casualty replenishment and vigor loss reduction sounds nice, but it's almost not worth it unless you get it to this top level, because then it includes adjacent regions. Otherwise, you're only getting the casualty replenishment in a single region. The upkeep one at least defaults to adjacent regions. Again, this one is like local region, right? And even these military increases only for local armies. So what? You're gonna build one of these in a territory that you're going to attack and have 1 or 2 fights in and then never get use out of it again. It does, at the higher level, give you the ability in adjacent regions. So you could like kind of see that being worth it. But yeah, just something to be aware of. These are cool and all, and they're great for giving you vision because, like, you don't buy Sanctum gems, so being able to put this somewhere so that you can at least have vision there can be really crucial. It can be really helpful for establishing like enemy army movements, finding new people, lots of different things, right? But yeah, just keep in mind that these bonuses are settlement only. When it says local armies, it means only in that settlement. It does not mean in the province, which is kind of sad. But I guess it makes sense. It would be kind of busted if you could have free recruitment. But anyway, just something to keep in mind. That pretty much covers everything I want to talk about for the Sanctums, okay? The last thing to talk about is the biggest one, and that is the Visions of the Old Ones mechanic. Okay, as it says, view missions to thwart chaos activities foreseen by Oxyotl and instantly travel to their locations. So, like I said, this allows you to teleport at any point in your turn. Once per turn, you can use this map to teleport. If I hover over this, it gives you a list of reasons which would prevent you from being able to teleport, but it's basically if you've already traveled or if you're in an enemy territory. So only Oxyotl's army can teleport. You can teleport to your home city, you can teleport to any capstone you've constructed, and then when you get missions, you can also teleport to them. Right, so you can instantly teleport, like on that turn, directly to this location, retain your movement. So basically, there's like a couple things to keep in mind here. One is that in order to complete these missions, you're gonna have to go to war with some random person halfway across the map, right? I'm not currently at war with Clan Pestilence, but to complete this mission, I have to teleport here and I have to attack Clan Pestilence. And if I don't, this army that is targeted here will gain this bonus. So I might not care about that. That might not be super relevant to me. Same thing here with the vampire counts, right? Okay, whatever. Some random dude in Sylvania, if I never go there, who really cares if he gets some bonuses? But some of these do have the Chaos Invasion occur sooner. I don't know how much that really impacts you. You just kind of have to be ready for it. I need to get further on a different campaign to see if there's anything more significant and how the final battle works for this, but that's a totally separate guide, a separate thing for a separate guide. But yeah, the Chaos Invasion occurs sooner. I don't know how much of a big deal that is. And there's the possibility that if you just disable the Chaos Invasion, this means nothing. So take it with a grain of salt. Don't beat yourself up too much if you choose not to do some of these missions. It sounds kind of scary, but again, if you're never gonna like go down here and fight these people, who cares if their army gets bonuses? It might be bad for the overall health of the world and the forces of order, but you can always fix that later. Yeah, or like here even, right? I'm gonna have to go here and destroy a herd stone for the Beastmen. And if I don't, they'll summon a new Bray Herd. So basically it's just kind of balance, give and take. Most of the time, it's really not that hard to just teleport here and wipe out whatever's there. It's a lot of fun. It's a really interesting mechanic, and I'm really enjoying it. I almost feel like this is something that Nakai the Wanderer should get as well. It'd be really cool. But yeah, that's how it works, right? And they give you a pretty good description of it too, right? There's different difficulty levels of missions. As you can see here, there's easy, normal, and hard. You do actually have to complete a certain number of them. Oh yeah, well, so the chapter objectives have you completing them, right? But so depending on which victory you're going for, you have to complete a certain number of these Visions objectives anyway. But that's up to you, right? Depending on what kind of, if you're just playing for sandbox mode for fun, or if you're actually pursuing the victory conditions. Obviously, these give you some good bonuses too, though. Wouldn't be too bad to have a Blessed Carnosaur, especially because you could get this fairly early. Like I'm about to finally hit tier 5 on my original province, right? But I could get a Carnosaur today if I wanted it. That kind of stuff, right? Blessed Croxagore. So this is how you get like some good blessed units. You can still get them through the normal means as well. I don't know if I have any. Yeah. So you can still get blessed units through the typical like random mission means as well. But that's what this Visions of the Old Ones mechanic does. Okay, you can see there's a timer on each of these. So we got about 5-6 turns to finish these missions. After that, there's usually like a 3 to 5 turn downtime period in between, where no new missions will spawn, and then a new set of missions will spawn. You can choose to ignore them, you can choose to do them. You can choose to pick a random spot halfway across the world to set up a second like zone in, build your capstone, and jump between the two of them and try to expand your territory on both fronts, or at least get into combat on both fronts. I have done a terrible job of expanding in this campaign, and we'll talk about this more in the campaign starter guide, but I don't think I recommend fighting Norska, even though the game kind of makes you feel like you should. I mean, it's still Norska. Their territory is still crap, no matter who you're playing as. But so, I mean, at the same time, my Oxyotl is at a pretty decent level, and I could be taking even more fights and exploring more. It's been a really fun campaign so far, right? So just something to keep in mind, right? You have a lot of options in this campaign. You're going to get these random missions all over the world. They're going to give you a chance to interact with so many different people, or you can just ignore them all, and you can play this like a standard Lizardmen campaign, except with the ability to instantly teleport home at any time you want, and that's a great mechanic to take advantage of, especially in the early game. With that being said, I think that covers everything I wanted to for the faction introduction. I hope that this information was useful to you. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you have any comments, please leave them in the section below. If you think there's anything I'd missed, I would love to have you add it to the list and to let other people out there know how this faction works better. I look forward to having some discussion. Tell me if you think Skinks are viable. I'd love to know. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.